Let me see if I put that up there. Yeah, on the other side of these mountains that are impassable, right? Or they're passable, but only through one choke point. And that choke point was Sardis. So if you were going to move from the east, where Babylon, where Persia, where India, anybody coming from that direction, if you wanted to move into this fertile valley that would lead you into Greece and would lead you into all of Europe, you had to pass through Sardis, and the choke point was there in the mountains. And they built a citadel right there. Go to my next slide. I'll get to him in a second. We'll stay on him. And so the choke point was Sardis. So it was a very important city, a very wealthy city, because of all the things coming through it. And they had a king whose name was Crassus. Anybody ever heard that name before, Crassus? Some of you have. Yeah, my grandma used to have an expression where she'd say Crassus. She'd go, in the church we grew up in, there was a fellow named Dan Johnson, and she'd go, "That Dan Johnson is as rich as Crassus," was her expression. She'd say all the time about Dan Johnson. Crassus was a rich guy. He was a king of the city of Sardis and is famous for his wealth and how he came to have that wealth. Crassus invented currency. So at Sardis, our namesake is the place where money began. We should gone back to us, huh? Yeah. Anyway, Crassus, there was these rivers that ran through the area that had golden dust, because those mountains, there'd be earthquakes, it'd rattle gold out of those mountains, and it'd wash through kind of mixed in other things, called electrum, where you'd have gold and silver kind of mixed together. And so his father started collecting those gold and silver nuggets and using them as money. And then when Crassus was king, they figured out how to melt everything and get just the gold. And so hop onto my next slide. One more, Derek. And so they started making these coins and using them as money. And so Crassus was so wealthy that he invented money. Is how wealthy he was. Now let's go back one. And so Crassus, with his power, he starts in the city of Sardis and kind of builds this big kingdom called Lydia, and grows his power. And he grows so powerful that he looks at a kingdom next to him that's growing and says, "I think that we ought to invade them and grow even more powerful." That kingdom was called the kingdom of Persia. And so Crassus leads an invasion of Persia and fails real bad. They get in a battle with the Persian king, and there's a stalemate, nobody wins. And so you've got Crassus and his army on one side that's kind of broken up. Then you've got this king named Cyrus and his army that's also broken up. And Cyrus is mentioned in the Bible, this Persian king. And so finally they decide, well, nobody's going to win, and so it's winter time. And at that time and at that place when there was war, you'd stop in the winter. At winter, everybody'd go home, go back to your farms, go back to your life, and they'd pick it back up in the spring. And so Crassus dismisses the army, says, "Hey, go back home." And Crassus leads his soldiers, and they head back to Sardis. But Cyrus, the king of Persia, decides to break the rules. He thinks, well, this is war. Why would I stop? Maybe while they stop, I'm going to sneak up and I'm going to catch them off guard. And so Crassus and his army goes home, and they get back there, and then all of a sudden they find the Persian army waiting outside their city. Which sounds real terrible, but it really wasn't. Because like you saw in the pictures, give me another slide there, Derek. Another one after that. This is the approach to Sardis. And so Crassus and his people in Sardis, they're worried, but not really. How are you going to get an army up there? There's really only one road that leads to the citadel. They're not going to make it up there. And if they are, you're just going to mow them down with bow and arrow. Or with whatever else they were using. Who knows? But they're not too worried. And not only that, but they've got food, they've got resources coming from the other side, and so they're fine. And they think, you know what, if Cyrus and the Persians want to camp outside of the city and die of starvation or break apart or whatever they're going to do, who cares, right? Good luck to them. And so let's go one more slide. Yeah, so there's another kind of picture of the citadel there that overlooks that valley. And one more. So eventually, about 2 weeks pass that these Persians are camped out there and they're watching the city. And it's obvious there's no way in. In fact, there's even been a prophecy that the city of Sardis would never fall. And so the Persians are out there just waiting. There's nothing to do, or they're going to have to go back home. And the legend goes that one soldier is watching the walls of Sardis. He sees the soldiers moving about. He watches them all day. He watches them all night. He notices at night that there's less soldiers. Still way too many for you to try and charge the gate or invade, but there's less soldiers at night. And then he also notices that this wall of Sardis is long and powerful, but that a lot of the wall is mountain, right? That's kind of the advantage it had, was they only had to build so much wall because the rest was this mountain that you couldn't lead an army up. You couldn't get horses up there. You couldn't wear all your armor and scale the side of a mountain. And so the soldier's watching, he thinks, I wonder if I could climb that mountain. And so one night when the city's asleep, he kind of disrobes. He takes off the heavy armor. He takes off all the stuff, just carries a small weapon with him. And he goes up to the city and he begins to climb. Let's hop to, if you'll notice, hop back one, Derek. You've got the kind of the Persian soldiers here, but you'll notice this one guy kind of here alone. So hop to the next one, Derek. This soldier kind of all alone climbs the mountain, strips down so he can climb the mountain. He gets to the very top, gets over the top of the mountain and just jumps right into the city. And Cyrus and the rest of his army, they watch him do it. They see what he's done, and so they do the same. They take off their armor. They take off all the extra stuff. They get just their small weapon. They climb up the mountain. They jump into the city. And so at night, all the soldiers of this invincible city, a city that couldn't fall, a city that was too powerful, a city that would never be conquered, they're all laying in bed asleep. And the next thing they know in the night, the Persian army is running through their streets, right? Overrunning them. And so Jesus says to the church of Sardis, you better guard what you have. Some of you are falling asleep. Some of you aren't ready. And I'm going to come in the night. Some of you haven't soiled your garments yet. Some of you haven't just completely fallen away. You better strengthen what remains. It's a threat. And it's a threat that the church of Sardis would have understood very well. I love living in Taney County. I didn't know that I had a Taney County soul, but after about 3 or 4 years here, I found out I did. I love the trees. I love the lakes. I love the smells. This morning I walked outside. My brother said it too. It smelled like a wet dog, but it was a good spring smell, a good spring wet dog outside. I've just come to love it. I love the people. I love everything. I just love it here in Taney County. And here at the church, it's just been wonderful. It's been wonderful to raise my kids here. It's been wonderful to see kids grow up here. I couldn't have written a better script. We're close, yeah. Everything, I love it. But one of the things that gets hard living here in Taney County is that there's more people than just us, right? And there's more people than just the people I know. Let me tell you what I mean. My wife teaches second grade, has taught second grade. This is her 10th year teaching second grade as well. And over the last 10 years, more and more at parent-teacher conferences, she doesn't see parents anymore, right? She sees grandparents. She sees aunts. She sees uncles. She sees somebody else. At the beginning of this school year, I substituted for Clara's class, and I never got to do that before. So I went in there and I really gave her a hard time. Teased her, maybe made her cry a touch, whatever. I gave her a hard time, right? Having fun with her. And anyway, I did that, and the day started, and the kids had kind of a morning activity. They sat down on the carpet, they talked about their weekend or whatever, and then they had a little notebook that they'd write in. And as the kids would write in the notebook, they had to do what's today's number? 5. What's 5 plus 10? 15, and they all write it down. And then at the very bottom of this was you had to draw a picture of something, and it was your thought of the day. And what blew me away that day is that they had to bring me their little books when they were done. And out of the 14 kids in that class, 9 of those kids brought me a little notebook, and you know what it said in the picture? It said, I miss my dad. It said, I wish my dad was here. Wish I had a dad. Wish my dad wasn't in jail. Right? That was eye-opening to me. Right? That's something that to me feels like paradise, a place that feels like paradise, a place that feels perfect. There are people hurting right here, right around us. It feels like a paradise so often to me, but you know what? The longer that you open your eyes, the harder it is sometimes to not see the people who are suffering around us, the stuff that's going on around us. The other night, me and Nick were driving through Power Site, tearing it up, and I seen a guy just dealing drugs right there by the post office, right? The other day, I was sitting here in church cleaning, and I see a car pull in. I see a 13-year-old kid walk out, hand somebody a bag, and they give him $20. So I knock on the window and go, I see you, and he takes off running. It is harder not to see the stuff that's going on around us. And so as a church, you have to ask ourselves, well, if God's put us here, has he put us here just to enjoy ourselves? Has he put us here just to take care of our own? What are we doing about the evil here, right? There's a system, there's a kingdom of evil that exists right here around us. What are we as a church doing about it? Right? You can go places, you can go to the Taney County Jail. Some of you guys work in the courthouse. God bless you. right? But when I go there, sometimes I can just feel the weight of that place, right? The weight of the trouble there. You can cut through it with a knife. What are we doing? So you know what I do? I say things like, well, it is what it is, right? What are you going to do? You can't fix everything. You can just do your best. What are we going to do? Or maybe I turn on the TV instead to think about it. And you turn on the TV and the news comes on and it's just as bad and it's just in your neighborhood, And so you turn on sports because they're not going to talk about here on sports. And you hope to just turn it off. But I tell you what, I think this morning, God's blessed us with this building. God's blessed us a lot in the last decade. But He's not done it for no reason. He's got to work for us. He's got a plan for us. It's hard sometimes when you read the Bible, you open it up, and you find verse after verse where Jesus performed miracles, right? He's healing the blind. He's helping the lame to walk. He's turning water into wine. Think, well, if God can do all those things, can God do something about the trouble in Taney County? I think He can. You think He can? Yeah, I think so too. And so I ask myself, well, as a church, what are we going to do about it? I think kind of the common answer sometimes at church is, well, let's get bigger, and we did, right? We built on. But that's not the solution. What Taney County didn't need was another church building. I'm glad we have it, but you know what Taney County really needs? What is it? What does Taney County really need? I say love, right? I'd say grace. I'd say kindness. I'd say a neighbor. I'd say a friend. I'd say someone that loves them, right? When I talk about these people that are suffering in Taney County, let's keep in mind these aren't strangers. For a lot of you sitting here, these are your kids. These are your grandkids. These are your nieces. These are your nephews. These are the people you know, the people you care about. How much do you love them? I know you love them enough to care, but do you love them enough maybe to scale the side of a mountain, right? If the front door's locked, how about, will you go in the back door? Will you check the window? As a church, we'll be a church that when the front door is knocked, our solution will be, well, let's just knock a little louder. How about if we try getting in the back way? Right? How about we check the window to see if it's locked? Will you check on them? Will you go? And you might think, well, what does that mean, Josh? What does that look like? In church today, we love in culture, we love big, strong men like me, right? I'm right on the borderland of handsome. And if you lined up me and the other young guys here in the church, we're a good-looking, strong group of guys, right? You say, oh, that's a group of guys. They could do something, right? They can help. They could really do something. And we probably could. But you know what a big, strong group of guys likes to do? They like to go and beat on the gate and stand outside and say, hey, we're here. Everybody, we're here, I want you to follow me up the mountain, but I want you to know something, that as I try and scale the side of the mountain and get in the back door, that I'm not leading the way. I'm following. And do you know who I'm following? It's not big, strong men. If you look at this building, this is not a story about big, strong men. You know what this is a story about? Sweet little old ladies, right? When you look around this building, this is a work that was driven by sweet little old ladies. And some of them weren't even that sweet, right? Can I get an amen? It was their time. It was their generosity. It was their love, right? As a church, we're standing here, and I'm talking about 10 years, but something for us to realize is that we're riding the momentum of 140 years of prayers, 140 years of love, 140 years of presence, right? And we're the beneficiaries of it, getting carried on a wave by what's behind us. But those little ladies, probably some of you here, a lot of you here, if it wasn't here in this place, it was somewhere, you were a little kid once, right? And your mom and your dad dropped you off at Vacation Bible School. And some little old woman came up and told you to sit down and told you this was the bathroom and there's a bathroom break and grabbed you by the shoulder and said, I need you to sit down, right? Joey, sit down. Right? They fed you spaghetti. They cleaned it up. They wiped off your lips. They chased you around. They told your parents, tomorrow if he comes, he needs to sit down and behave. And you probably thought when you were a kid that those little ladies, that's just what little ladies do, right? That's what sweet little old ladies do. They just run a Vacation Bible School. They don't like TV. They don't like their house. They just like to come and do that. They like to push around kids. That's what they do. But you want to know what the truth is? Those little ladies when they were cleaning you up, when they had their flannel graph and were teaching about David and Goliath, you know what they were trying to do? You didn't know it then. They were trying to save you from hell, right? They were trying to pull you from the grasp of the evil that exists in this world, right? And they didn't put on a show, and they didn't need to thank you, and they didn't need 1,000 other things. They just loved you and wanted to get you out of there. And you know what Taney County needs? It needs people who will do the same. People who don't want to put on a show, people who don't need a lot of praise, but people who will be a friend, people who will be a neighbor, people who will be there. To me, that's what it means to come in the back door. It's to go to the places nobody else wants to go. It's to be in the times that the people don't want to be there, right? Will you climb the mountain and go in the back for somebody? Do you love them that much? I know I'm here because of some ladies. I know you're here because of some ladies who did. So here's what I'm going to ask you this morning. We're going to wrap up. It's been an amazing 10 years. But I'm already thinking about my 20-year anniversary. And I want to know who's sitting beside you 10 years from now. Right? Who are the people that are on your heart, the people that need you? What I'm asking you is just think of 5 people. 5 people in your life. And if you don't have 5 people, shame on you. Meet some people, right? 5 people who in the next 10 years, they're going to be on your heart and they're going to be on your mind. And then if you believe that Jesus walked on water and if you believe Jesus healed the blind, then you also can believe that Jesus is going to get them, right? And we're going to pray. We're going to pray in believing and knowing that God has a seat for them. God has a plan for them. That God's going to get them. So I'm going to ask you this morning, when we go to the Lord in prayer, I want you to come up with 5 names in your heart. And I want you to take those 5 names and I want you to throw them up to heaven, right? Throw them up in quiet prayers. And I promise you this morning that when you throw those names up to God, they're going to come back like thunder. They're going to come back with power. They're going to come back with glory. They're going to come back with a smiling face someday, singing about the grace of God. Let's go, Lord, in prayer. God, I thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for the last 10 years. Lord, I come before you with names on my heart. Names of people I know, names of people I love, names of people I care about. And I stand with a congregation that's got names on theirs. God, and as we lift these names up to you, we give them as a plea. We pray that you'd hear these names. Lord, we pray you'd clear a path for us to love them, a path for us to be a neighbor to them, a path for us to be a friend to them, a path for them to find your grace and your love. God, I pray that you would hear these prayers and that you'd send out your angels, that you'd stir in us a passion. God, I pray that if there's 100 here praying right now, that there'd be 500 people right now that are on their way to salvation. 500 people who the gates of hell are about to break. 500 people who are about to be stolen from the kingdom of the devil. God, I thank you so much for everything. Sure, I pray. Amen. You know, we're a little church. When I first moved here, I'd go out and substitute teach and have to introduce myself to people, and I'd tell them I was the pastor of Sardis. And you know, they know the building, and they'd see me. I was 22, and they go, "That's cute. That's a very charming story, right?" I remember being told cute all the time, and yeah, it still happens, I guess, you know. But I can remember that well. You know, something I would say about Sardis is that I don't think the devil is worried about Sardis, and I think that's how we're going to get him, right? Because he won't see us climbing the side of that mountain. He won't see us climbing over the wall. He'll be sitting in his bed, asleep, confident in what is his when we steal a kingdom from him. When we steal 500 people, right? And I'll tell you what, if we as a church can steal 500 people, you know what I believe God will do? He'll take those 500 people we steal and he'll give them 5 names. And we'll have stolen 3,200 people. I hope that's right. No, 2,500 people. But we'll go and up it. It's going to go even better. 3,200 people, right? And those people will have 5 people. That'll be 12,000 people we'll steal. And if we can steal 12,000, we'll steal 62,000. And if we can steal 62,000, we'll steal 312,000. Pretty soon we'll steal this entire county, right? We'll steal everything. will steal a kingdom for God. You know, this morning I'm sitting up here. I'm burning up. I'm a hot-blooded guy. I think it's hot in here. Is it hot in here? Yeah. But yeah, you know, I also feel the weight, the heat of 140 years of people being here, right? 140 years. I can feel the weight of the last 10 years here with us right now. It was almost like if I could hold up a knife and I could cut a hole in space and time and hold my ear up to it. When I do that, when I imagine that, I hear voices behind me, right? Hear voices of people I love, people who have gone. I feel like today, if I listen to that hole, I can hear Jeannie Beeler, right? I can hear her on the organ. I can hear her saying, I'll fly away, right? And we played and we sing. I can hear her voice singing it right now. Think about it. I can hear Chelsea back there in the back of the church with her little notebook. And she's writing down every name of everybody who's here. If she doesn't know, she goes, lady number 2, lady number 3, right? I can hear her back there writing down names. I can hear Irma Lisek in the kitchen, cleaning up after a meal. I can hear people I didn't know, right? I don't know Mary Dunn's voice, but imagine that's her I'm hearing. I can hear the people who have been here and who have prayed for this moment, prayed for this people, whose hopes, whose dreams are right here with us. You know, if I turn my ear and I listen, instead of behind me, if I listen in front of me, you know what else I hear? I hear myself as an older man, right? I can hear these kids. I can hear Emmerich in the future someday praying. But I can hear the lines in his face. I can hear Jeb, and I can hear Parks, and I can hear these kids. I can hear their children. I can hear the work God's got ahead of us, the plan that God's got ahead of us. Will you climb the side of the mountain for that? I can hear that crowd. I can hear that 62,000. I can hear those people. It doesn't start with a boom. It doesn't start with a splash. It starts with somebody deciding that they'll strip down and climb the side of the mountain. So when people ask me, what does Sardis mean? I'll tell them, it means we're stealing a kingdom.